Hello, my name is Dr. Stephanie Akini, and today I'm going to give a talk on communicable diseases. Communicable diseases are basically diseases that are transmitted via contact. This can be direct contact, human-to-human transmission, or transmission to human beings by a vector, or an animal, for example, a mosquito transmitting malaria. Or it can be through droplets in the air that we breathe. So there are very many types of communicable diseases, and one of the ways of tackling prevention of communicable diseases is stopping the transmission at the chain of infection. In the chain of infection, we have the host. The host is the person or the animal that hosts the disease, that has the transmissible form of the disease and is capable of transmitting it to another person. So the chain of infection is basically how a pathogen moves from one step to another until it is able to cause the disease in a susceptible host. So we'll use an example of malaria to explain the chain of infection and how we use the chain of infection to control transmission of diseases. So in the chain of infection, first we have the reservoir. The reservoir is where the pathogen lives, multiplies, and it can be transmitted. So in this case, in the case of malaria, we have the female Anopheles mosquito, which is where the malaria parasite lives. And when the female Anopheles mosquito takes a bite, or is sucking human blood, it is able to transmit the malaria parasite from itself to the human. And then in the human, we have the malaria parasite, the human being the susceptible host, you have the malaria parasite multiplying until from the different forms of life of the malaria until to the adult stage. So the chain of transmission is basically the various steps a pathogen goes to until it is able to cause disease. And in this chain of infection, we have 6 steps. We have the reservoir. This is where the pathogen lives and multiplies. We have the portal of exit, how the pathogen leaves the reservoir. And then we have the portal of entry into the susceptible host, from the susceptible host into the environment or agent until back into the reservoir. So each infectious disease has this chain of infection. And we're going to use an example of cholera, which we have recently experienced an outbreak, to explain this chain of infection and how we use the chain of infection to stop spread of a disease. So we have the reservoir, which is the human being, where the cholera, the infectious agent being bacteria. So we are going to use cholera as an example to explain the chain of infection. I've chosen cholera specifically because we've recently experienced an outbreak. So in the case of cholera, the reservoir is the human being, an infected human being who carries the bacteria, which is Vibrio cholerae. So the infected human can transmit infection to another human, for example, by contaminating food, either defecating in sources of water or contaminating food that will be ingested by another human being. And then the other human being becomes now the host, and then that human being can transmit the bacteria to another human being, or through either by contaminating their food or water or contaminating sources of water. So in the case of cholera, in this case, the reservoir is the human being who transmits the bacteria either by contaminating food or water, and this contaminated food or water is then ingested by a susceptible host, in this case, another human being who becomes infected. And if proper hygiene is not met, this susceptible host also becomes a reservoir and is able to transmit the disease to another human being. So in this case, how we manage the infection is, one, by treating infected individuals. When you treat the infected individuals, we prevent the spread or the ability to spread to another human being. Two, by building pit latrines in areas where there is none, so that we enable people to relieve themselves in the designated places, and they stop passing stool in sources of water that's contaminating the water. Also boiling water, especially drinking water or cooking water, until it kills the bacteria, or using water guard, which is used to sterilize water. We also encourage hand washing. In this case, the person who is infected prevents transmission from them to either maybe food that another person might eat. So hand washing is also encouraged.